just introduce to my wife and my loan officer assistant. That's Faye down at the bottom. I don't know where they are here, but she'll be helping me now. It's her first full day on the job. So we're just excited. We're excited about everything. And I really appreciate you guys hosting this.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I'm Chuck Vosburgh, and this is my wife, Pat. We're a husband and wife real estate team, and we are your friends in Florida. I know some of you are folks that we know on here. We're glad you joined us. And yeah, you might have heard that there's a lawsuit thing out there that people have been talking about and everyone's concerned about. Well, I've got good news. We're not going to talk about the lawsuit. We're going to talk about the solution to it today. And Pat and I were kind of lucky. We were ready for this without even realizing we were ready, because we've always kind of felt like we needed to have a very tight buyer consultation, just as tight as it would be as if it was a seller. So we found that that helps buyers feel a lot more comfortable with the process. It helps to kind of set the stage. So we've always been doing this. We've been refining it over the years. And Florida is one of those kind of states where a buyer representation agreement's not required here. So as a result, 99% of agents out there in this state don't use them. But we've always used them because we've got really great brokers, Michael Bindman and Jan Bruzis, and they advised us to use them from the very beginning. And we take their advice because they know a lot more than we do. So we've really refined the whole process so that when it gets down to signing the agreement, they want to sign it. They're not going to have objections. They're not going to have any questions or any reservations about signing, because by the time we get to that, they want to sign because this is a structured program. And it all starts with the very first phone call. We want to set up two overarching themes to this. One is that we have a plan. The second theme is that they're in good hands. So everything we do from that first phone call all the way through the transaction is to reinforce that we have a plan. Because everybody wants somebody with a plan. Isn't that right, Pat?
Yep. We always have a plan.
So the first phone call, it's all about listening. We all know how to ask open-ended questions and just listen and take notes. The day before the face-to-face meeting, or it could be done on Zoom if they're out of town, of course, we text them the agenda for the meeting. And that again sets the tone that we've got a plan. This is not flying by the seat of our pants. This is something we do professionally. So the meeting agenda is actually four things. It's the four options, and we don't tell them what it is because they've got to wait. Your reasons to move, our plan, and how we are compensated. So we just text them, that's the agenda. That way it kind of lays it out from the get-go. We've got a plan. Then when we get to the appointment, we once again open with this question: what do you have in mind? And then we shut up and listen. So they tell us all the stuff again. Now, we've already gathered as much information as we can, but during this, it allows us to kind of get a feel for what their concerns are. Where are the things that we need to make sure we address later on to make sure that they feel comfortable with us, that they're in good hands. That's one thing that Pat does especially well. She just somehow extracts information from people in a way that is just amazing.
They tell me everything.
Yeah. How do you do that, Pat?
I don't know. All my years of being a social worker, I think.
It must be, because I'll tell you, we go to the grocery store, and before we're through the line, Pat knows their name, where they live, all about their family. It's, any ailments that they may be struggling with. It's just terrible. So we sit and listen. And the whole purpose for this is to gather the ways that we can help them the best. This is the thing that I think a lot of agents kind of skip ahead of. we don't launch into how great we are. We want to find out about them first, because later we're going to do an activity which one of our mentors taught us, which is called poke the bruise. So I'll tell you about that in a moment. So we go over the 4 options after they're done talking. And the 4 options are this. You could try to do it on your own. You could decide that maybe we're not the right people, or we may decide that maybe we're not the right people for you, in which case we would recommend somebody. And see, if you recommend somebody, then at least you get a referral fee for it. And you might work with some other agent that's not us. So, oh, and the 4th one was you can just stay where you are, but they've already made that decision. So stay where you are, try to do it yourself, hire us, or have somebody else that we recommend. So those are the 4 options. So again, we're laying the groundwork that this is what we're working for. We're working for a decision here. But in order for them to make that decision, they're going to need some information from us. So the next step is to tell them a little bit about who we are. And we try to make this really, really short, like less than 5 minutes, because they're already assuming that we know what we're doing, or else we wouldn't be sitting there. So you don't have to give a long dissertation about how great you are. Again, the theme is you've got a plan and they're in good hands. So it's about building trust more than it is giving them a recital of all your certifications and awards that you've won. Then we get into their reasons to move. Now, this is really the meat of the whole conversation, because we've gathered a lot of information, we've listened, we've taken notes, we know what areas they're concerned about. Most people have had a bad experience with another agent at some point, so we want to find that out early on so that we can address it and make sure that they know that those problems are not going to be repeated here. So again, it's about listening. Now it comes down to poking the bruise, what one of our mentors taught us. Keith Robinson was the mentor. He's got a really great podcast along with James Dwiggins. So we poke the bruise. What that means is we keep kind of coming back to what's going to happen if they make the wrong decision here. Like, you know, if they don't do this, there's a million things that can go wrong. And we've already identified what they're concerned about. And that helps us to address that. So we call it poking the bruise, just jokingly. But what we're really doing is reminding them of the things that they know that can go wrong, that would be of concern to them, and telling them how we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. Like, Pat, you've got some strategies, like you're doing all the research and things.
I do a lot of research right up front. You know, we'll have a list of homes that we're going to go see, and I'm sure you guys do this too, where at least for in our area here, we can look at permits. I kind of also make it that I'm not going to be running myself ragged. That's not to say that I don't show a lot of homes, but kind of getting homes that we're not going to go look at once they've become a buyer with us. And so going and looking at permits, making sure that, you know, the years that they're telling us in MLS is the correct year for everything that's in there. But doing a lot of research. We have sinkholes here in Florida. And so I know the areas, we know the areas, but still there's maps that I can look at. And, you know, if that house in particular does not have a sinkhole, well, the one next door did. Do you still want to go look at it? So there's a lot that can happen.
You know, and I think that's really a genius way where you kind of nip it in the bud to where you don't have to drive around a lot,
Yeah.
showing houses that they're definitely not going to buy.
Right.
So you just explain to them why that may not be a good choice.
Right.
And of course, if they insist, you're going to show it, right?
Yeah. And of course, in your buyer's consultation, you're really going to get into in-depth what they are looking for. And as you know, buyers change their mind all the time about what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So you, like I just had buyers that told me they did not want to look south of, of Tampa area, but I knew to take them to this fabulous new construction. And it was in Wimama, which is south of us here. And I'm just in love with this development. And when I took them there, their eyes popped out of their heads and their jaws dropped, because I knew, like, you kind of get to know your buyers and your clients and you become friends with them. And I knew that this was going to be the place they go when they're closing on May 15th. So it's just, you get to know your people and really listen, like you said.
That's right. Yeah, that was the perfect place for them. They just didn't know it yet.
They didn't know it yet, but I knew it.
Now, we kind of stay organized from the very first conversation. We've got this little prospect info sheet that we fill out, and we've kind of refined this over time. If you want me to email you a copy of this, put your name and email address in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to send this to you, plus a couple other things that I'm going to show you as we go through this. Another thing that we provide to the people, regardless of if they hire us or not, the path to a new home. Now, it's going to differ state by state, but what this does is lays out what all the steps are and also shows them that this is not a simple process, and reinforces the fact that they're going to need our help. So that's good. Everybody's putting their name and email address in the chat, so that way I can email you these forms and things, and maybe they'll help you out. As we're going through this, obviously, we're not going to be the only agents that they know. Research says that everybody knows at least 3 agents, and here where we live, I think it's more like 9, because everybody's an agent. So we also made this thing buyer's agent comparison. So on one column, there's Chuck and Pat, and then on the other column is the ordinary agent and how few things they actually do compared to us. So I'd like you to consider this. Make a list of at least 20 things that you do, that some of the things obviously are going to be things everybody does, but do some things that you do that are different and just lay them out. And the things that cost money go up at the top. So I'll give you some ideas towards the end of some things you can do to increase your value without having to spend a lot of money doing it. So I'll send you this as well. Maybe it'll give you some ideas. So we're going through the presentation. We're talking about their reasons to move. Now we're into our plan. And your plan's going to differ depending on who they are, where you live. You know, every situation's different, but there's some things that are common to every single transaction. So we've actually got a little plan, and this might be some things about what does your brand offer? There's certain things that your office may offer. And think hard about this, because a lot of the things that we do, we kind of assume is common, but many of them aren't. Even little things like in our office, we've got a little app that we can give them to help them with house hunting. Well, that belongs on that list. You may think, oh, well, every brand has an app. Well, it doesn't matter. You have an app and you're telling them about it.
You want them to use your app, not someone else's, because they're going to be, you guys know about Mobile Connect. So they're in front of a house and they want more information about it. They're going to click on it. Well, then you're going to know that they want information about that house. So it's a really, really good thing that we have at Next Home.
Yeah, that's something that Next Home offers us, the brand that we're with. And I know, you know, for those of you who are with other brands, I know many of the other national brands, they all offer a similar service. But just because it may be common among our different brands doesn't mean you shouldn't put it on that list, because, you know, another less experienced agent may come in there and they forget to mention all that stuff. And I'll tell you why, because they make it all about themselves. And, oh, how great I am. It's not about you. It's about them and how you're making the whole process easier. And that's where, like, for example, we partnered with Jeff, the host of this mastermind today. He's a lender, and one thing that we did that's different is we've got a really tight program with him so that it's not like they feel like we're handing him off to him in the beginning, and then he does his thing, and then he hands them back to us when he's finished. It's all an integrated thing. We work together on this so that Jeff is speaking with them and we're speaking with them as well. And it makes it feel like a contiguous program. And that's what we want to do every step of the way if we can, is we stay at the center of the transaction, but of course we've got other people we work with. We've got an experienced lender that we know how to work with. Jeff knows how we work. We know how he works. It's perfect. Same with inspectors and anybody else along the way that you may need. Make sure that you're tight with them so that the whole thing feels like a continuous process instead of them being handed from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of, like, I know we shouldn't use the word partners because, you know, you don't want to have an ostensible partnership, but I do call them partners because that's what they are. Our title company, we actually sat down with them and changed our internal forms so that the order of the stuff matched what they have to make it more seamless, so that we could work together easier. And those are the kind of things you need to consider as you go through this. So let's see, I'm getting off track here. Okay. So we've gone through the whole thing. You might notice we haven't talked about how we get paid at all. And there's no reason to unless they decide to hire us, because this is the part where it's like, okay, do we sound like the right people to help you? And if they hesitate, it's one of two things. It's either you're not the right people or you haven't explained yourself well enough. And you'll be able to sense that. If you're not the right people, that's fine. Recommend somebody else and just get a referral for them and move on. If they say no, they want to do it themselves or they want to go with somebody else, that's fine too. But that would be the end of the conversation. There's no point in wasting more time going into how you get paid and how you work and all this stuff and all the nuts and bolts if you're not going to be working together anyway. So save that for the end. But invariably, if you've done a halfway decent job of following this format, and also I will email you the outline for our presentation so you can structure yours the same way. If you follow our outline, you will win just about every single time. And if you don't, it's because they're making a horrible mistake. It's no laughing. This is a tough crowd. All right. So they say yes. Now it's time to just go over some of the nuts and bolts. And we just say, okay, great. Well, let's just do the paperwork. It's not an agreement. It's not a contract. It's just paperwork. So you just sit down, you fill it out, you go through it very quickly. This is something you want to talk with your broker about because everybody's different and every brokerage has different policies. But I'll tell you the way that we do it. The way we explain it, and this is going to get very critical that you can explain this looking them square in the eye and say it clearly. Here's the words we use. You can put this in your own words. Sometimes there are sellers that expect for you to pay for some or all of the commission. If that happens, here's how much commission it is, and we're going to let you know how much money that would be so you can decide whether or not you want to see that house. Now, that covers, it's not a violation because we're giving them the information and they decide. If they decide they want to see the house, they already know how much they're going to need to pay us. And that way there's no confusion. And I'll tell you what, most of the time, now, oh, let me back up. Now, we'll also tell them, now, we will always try to get the seller to pay us so that you don't have to pay us. But there are some occasions that they might, but we'll always try. So if we go see a property and they love it, they already know in advance. Now, before we move on with that, just kind of, stick your hands up. Is there anybody that's kind of nervous about that conversation? Everybody is, unless you live in a state where you already had to do it all along. But I think we're going to see a little Wild West period coming up here. So everybody says that in July that the offers of compensation has to come out of the MLS, and there's going to be an adjustment period. So we're going to just kind of see how that goes. I think we're already seeing some sellers experimenting with low or no offer of compensation. And, we'll see how that goes. Whatever it is, we're going to adapt. We're going to improvise. We're going to be okay. And for you folks that do mostly residential, I'll tell you that this has been a common practice in commercial real estate for a very long time. And none of those people died.
Right.
So it's really just a matter of explaining it clearly. And I hope you put your name and email address in the chat so I can send you all this stuff. But doing this in a clear and concise way is the way to do it. Now, I want to give you some ways where you can increase your value. And we're going to leave plenty of room at the end so that you can ask some questions, because I know you've got a lot of questions. Here's a few things that we do to increase our value and help us stand apart from everybody else. One of them is, Pat, would you mind grabbing the box?
Oh, yeah.
One of them is we give them moving boxes, bubble wrap, tape, a marker, everything, but they're not ordinary boxes. They're very nice looking boxes.
And they have nice handles and they're very sturdy.
Yeah, they're very high quality.
They're really great.
Now, whoops, sorry. When I email you, I'll give you a link to where we get those. The most expensive package is, I think it's about $130.
$130.
You don't have to do anything. You just type in on the website. They'll set up your artwork for free. And for the first time, you type in where it's going. They ship it straight to your client. You don't even have to touch it. And clients are absolutely blown away. So considering what we get paid on a transaction, $130 to absolutely blow some away is nothing. And people talk about them. And we always tell them, hey, when you're done with the boxes, put it on Facebook Marketplace. You've got free boxes so other people can use them. And every one of those boxes is a little mini advertisement for you. So that's one way you can increase your value. Very little cost and almost zero effort. Another way is we have a little utility trailer. A lot of people do. We paid $500 for it. We bought it used. And the way I got it for $500 is it was full of junk. And the deal was, I'll sell this to you for $500, but you have to empty it.
That's fine.
So we tell people, all right, so everybody's got some junk that's too big to put in the trash can. So we're going to drop off this trash trailer at your place. You fill it up and we'll have it hauled off to the dump for you. Again, our dump, the base fee is like $14, I think, to unload the trailer. It's almost free, and we've already got the trailer. So you may want to consider that. We also offer a day's use of a 16-foot moving truck. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, Chuck, I can't afford a moving truck. You guys must be really doing a lot of business. Well, our truck is really awesome. It's orange and white, and it says U-Haul on the side. We just went down to the local U-Haul office, and we told them, hey, we're going to send this person over here. We're paying for the first day for them. They pick up the truck. They do all the paperwork. They do everything. We just pay for the first day. It's very inexpensive. And that's another thing that can really set you apart from other agents. So we got the boxes. Those don't cost hardly anything. We've got the trash trailer, which is practically free, and we already had it anyway. Chances are some of you have one sitting in the backyard. We've got the moving truck, which one day for a U-Haul truck is very inexpensive. So those are three major things that nobody else thinks of. You can do those. You can do every single one of those easily. And nobody, all the people that are out there scrambling around worrying about the lawsuit, they're going to find it harder and harder to compare with you guys because you're thinking ahead, and we're thinking beyond selling a house. We're thinking in the whole transaction, the whole move, helping them to get from one place to another place, helping them get what they want. That's the whole thing, is everything you can do to make it easier for them to get what they want makes you stand out. So those are some of the main things we do. A few other things we do: we don't put people on automatic emails most of the time. We do what we call concierge. And what we do is we look at each one first. If that place looks like a hellhole, we don't send it. That way, again, it's providing service, because everybody else just going to put them on an automatic email. They know it's an automatic email because half of it's junk, and it just makes you look lazy.
Yeah, you don't want them sifting through a ton of things and then sending you, 30 houses that they think, oh, I think these 30 houses will suit me. I mean, while they're all over the place. And
Yeah,
you really,
that's our job.
yeah, that's our job.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, this is a little bit off topic, but this is a big selling point for us. We have a thing, we call it handcrafted offers. And the chances of one of our offers getting accepted is far better than most agents. And I'll tell you how. We've got so many stories, and we share these stories with people of ones who they were not the highest offer, but it got accepted anyway, because we sent the offer complete. Everything's all filled out. It's filled out correctly and completely. So all they have to do is just sign, and it's done.
All the attachments.
Lawyers call it fait accompli. It is done. You just send it to them. It's done. All they have to do is sign. We also, on the cover email, we give them a few bullet points of why this is a really great offer and why they might want to accept it. One of them is, we got a really great lender that we've worked with for many years, and time after time after time, and somebody who picks up their phone. We may say about the inspector that we use. We use inspectors that don't freak people out. They're just matter of fact. If there's something wrong, they just tell them. They don't freak anybody out. Also, there's 2 agents that answer their phone, and they're friendly. We put that in there. Now, the other thing we do is we include a little video. You guys might have heard of a service called BombBomb, and I'll put that in the email that I sent you too. And what it is it makes you able to do a video right in your email. So I give them the information about why it's a really awesome offer. I give them all the information, but I'm careful not to say anything that might cause them to be afraid of fair housing. So frequently what happens is the seller's agent will show that video to the seller, and then they can kind of get a feel for you and how friendly you are and you're professional, and they get a feel. They might want to work with you, because keep in mind, the seller's main concern and their biggest worry isn't how much money they're going to get. Now, everybody says that because they can't think of anything else. But the real thing is that deal won't go through. It's going to get partway through, it's going to cancel, and then all of a sudden, all their plans are messed up. The moving truck that they've scheduled, everything's all lined up. Now it's all a mess. That's their biggest fear. So we try to address those fears. And we call the agent beforehand, before we construct all this, and see if maybe there's something that the seller can, maybe it will be beneficial to them. Maybe they need a longer close, or maybe they need a quick close, or maybe there was one recently, they were having a hard time getting all their junk out of the garage. So in our offer, we put, all right, we'll be responsible for all that junk in the garage. That got it accepted because that was their biggest problem. So just think about it. What can you do? Your people may be able to accommodate something that's not monetary, that'll help out the other side. And you never know how much that little thing helps. That trash in the garage was a big deal to these people because they were a little bit older. They were having a hard time getting everything together. And it just took a weight off their shoulders. And we were actually the lowest offer monetarily, but it solved a problem. So you want to add anything to that, Pat?
No, I think you're good.
All right. You know, for those of you that know us, you know that Pat usually does most of the talking.
I do.
But today's going good. So I'm sure this would be a good place for us to pause for a minute and answer some questions. And again, if you haven't put your name and your email address in the chat, please do so. I'll send you all this stuff. I'll send you the links. I'll send you everything you want to know. And you can tell us anything and we'll tell you anything. So who's got questions? Just unmute yourself and speak up. Wow, Jeff, I did such a great job explaining this that nobody.
Yeah, I was going to say nailed it.
Yeah.
You know, there's one thing I do too to help agents out, because when we're submitting offers, this really came in effect in the crazy years of 2020 and 2021. I do what is called the digital offer. So for me as a lender, you guys are sitting with the offer. You shoot me a text. Hey, Jeff, we just submitted the offer for the Smiths. I already have a video ready and I put it in a presentation that has the listing on it. And it says, or the picture of a listing, it says our offer for whatever address. And I send it to the listing agent via text. And then I call the listing agent. When the listing agent watches the video, it basically is just a 60-second introduction to myself as a lender, a little bit about the buyer, and maybe why we are structuring the deal this way. Why are we asking for a seller credit? We don't need to pay for closing costs, just to let the seller know we're trying to navigate a crazy market right now, high home prices, high interest rates, you know, or back in 2020 and 2021, just to let them know that even though times are crazy, I'm still here, I'm present, you can always reach me, you know, and that goes a long ways. Like when, you know, Chuck was saying, what you guys' value is just much more than yourself because you got an amazing team behind you. That's really what I think is a huge, you know, benefit for a potential buyer in this market, in really any market.
That's right, Jeff. And because you do that, we generally don't need this. But, you know, if you're working with a lender that you know personally, like we know Jeff personally, if we know that maybe they're kind of on the fence, maybe sometimes a telephone call from the lender would put them over. Because again, it's all about that personal thing. If I know if they talk to Jeff, they're going to feel 100% comfortable that everything's going to be just fine. And I know Jeff does that whenever it's necessary. He'll make that phone call. By the way, Jeff, which states do you serve?
Right now, I'm just in Florida, but
That's
for
what
me,
I thought.
I've been thinking about getting some other states. I really, you know, I currently right now, I live in New York, but I lived in Florida. I went to college in Jacksonville University. I really just know Florida's title. I just know all their, you know, homesteading and, you know, but that doesn't preclude me from getting other states. It's kind of easy on my end to do that. I just have to apply. It's very, very simple. So if people need me in other states, I used to have other states, but then the one-offs was just, it wasn't, you know, I needed to pay for my renewals. And so I kind of just put them on the side, but I can always get other states if needed. That's not a problem at all.
Yes, that's right. And I know a couple of you are friends of ours here in Florida. So, you know, Florida people that are on this, I'd really recommend that you talk to Jeff. I know this, you know, I hate to sound like a Jeff salesman, but
You'll get your Starbucks card in the mail.
All right. I honestly, I've never met a lender like Jeff. And that's why we're on here. Jeff's the only lender I know that does these regular masterminds. And last time he was explaining to us a good strategy for, you know, how to get people's rate down permanently. And other times he's had people on here explaining things and teaching us. And sometimes it's just a really great discussion about a topic. So
It's once a month.
yeah, you do it once a month.
Yep.
And it's always the first
Wednesday of the month.
Wednesday. Yes.
Yep.
I can never remember that. But yeah, so that's something you may want to consider coming to. And we're just so great that so grateful that you invited us to this.
Well, I appreciate it. You guys are invaluable to me.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Travis, you had something to say. I'd like to hear what you have to say, Travis. Make sure you unmute.
I'm just wondering if you guys or if anybody else uses platforms like Zoom to help reinforce your buyer proposition when you're working with them. I do this with my buyers all the time. I'll do the buyer consultation over Zoom sometimes. Obviously it's better to do it in person. But when I'm going over contracts, I always try to do it on Zoom and record it. And that way I have a little bit of a CYA, for those of you who don't know, it's cover your assets, as a backup to be able to, show that, hey, we went over that and I can prove that we talked about dual agency. We talked about these different things and that we have to go over, and it covers those things. Plus, when they hit that little yes or okay, they understand they're recording it. It's their consent saying, I'm going to record this and have that little backup. It also helps with, right now, we're working with a lot of Sudanese buyers and people that there might be a little bit of a, what am I trying to say?
Language barrier?
Learning
Language
curve
barrier,
and
yeah.
or say it again, Jeff, I'm sorry.
A language barrier?
Yes, the language barrier. And that way, when I have that recording, I can then share it to them and they have a copy of it and they can go back through it again and again and again, so it helps a lot. And I found that they've actually sent that to other people and because I let them share it with whoever they want. And I've had people get referrals because of that, of me going through it kind of extensively, because it's a big deal, And then I'll have, I have one right now where we closed on one of their friends and they said, well, we know all that because we watched your other video with them.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
Awesome.
okay. And I tell my people, I said, listen, we're going to be talking about, things, the price and things like that. We're negotiating. So if you do share this, make sure you know that it's out there to the world. And they're like, yeah, cool. So
I'm so
I didn't know
glad
if
you
anybody
brought
else was
that up,
doing that.
man. And I got to tell you, Travis, that's really a genius way of doing it. And you're right. Last year, exactly half of our buyers were out of state. So it's not practical to get together in person. And Zoom is a great way. And we do exactly what you recommended. We record it and then we post it on our YouTube channel and give them the link so they can go to it as many times as they want. And also it introduces them to our YouTube channel, which, there's lots of good little tutorials on there about real estate and particularly about how Florida differs from other states. So it's a win-win. And then also when somebody is under contract, we've got a whole series of pre-recorded videos explaining every step of the transaction. So as soon as that contract is signed, we just start them up for that little, we use BombBomb for our service, but they call it an automation. And it just sends them out at the various times, don't have to touch it. And it really helps them to stay informed and helps us stay ahead of their concerns and their anxiety. Because one thing it's easy for us to forget, because we're doing real estate transactions every day. It's no big deal, millions of dollars, yeah, whatever. But it's a real big deal to them, and it's easy to forget that sometimes. So I'd like to know, does anybody else here, would you like to share some of the things that you do to stand out and increase your value? Because I'd love to get some new ideas. Who's increasing their value out there? Nobody's increasing their value, Pat.
They all are.
They all are. They're too busy increasing their value to talk to me. Well, what Travis said is definitely a value increase, because he's got a way set up to where he can help them out remotely. It's not practical to get together, no problem. And that's kind of a good segue too about working with out-of-state buyers. We use Zoom for that. We've done as long as a 4-hour video walkthrough of a property.
Because it was big.
It was big. It was
huge.
It was $1 million listing.
Yeah.
But we've sold many, many properties sight unseen because they felt so comfortable with the video walkthrough And sometimes we've got two ways of doing it, because sometimes the connectivity is not good enough and it keeps dropping off, especially when you go in the bathroom or somewhere where there's a lot of tile. And if that fails, then we just do a good old-fashioned video walkthrough and show them every little thing. Show them the neighborhood, drive around the neighborhood, post that on your YouTube channel with a link, and then not only you get views on your YouTube channel, but you also get them the information they need to be able to buy the house. That's another thing, and I'm sure, Travis, you do that a lot because you're working with out-of-town people as well.
A lot of people are working with out-of-towners.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if our friend Renee Marquis is still on here, but she's just south of us, and
Oh, there's Renee. She wrote.
oh yeah,
She does a lot of video tours.
yeah.
And she uploads it to YouTube for them to watch at their leisure.
She
Yeah,
has not
no-
had buyers with regrets so far.
Same with us.
Yeah, same here.
Yep.
Yeah, if you do a good, thorough job with your video, they're going to have all the information they need. And of course, now this varies from state to state, but here in Florida, we have an inspection period, which is also a right of refusal period. So during that time, we encourage people to fly down and view the property in person during the inspection period while they can still cancel and get their deposit back. Because once that, here in Florida anyway, once that inspection period ends, they are under contract and their deposit would be at risk if they were to try to cancel.
We haven't had that happen though.
Chuck,
Yes.
sorry, I can't find my raise my hand button, so I don't mean to interrupt.
Come on in, Renee.
The detail with the doing that video tour is you really do have to act like they are standing right next to you. And that's what I do. I mean, as soon as I walk in the door, if I have an overpowering smell, that's the first thing I'm going to say. If I see, nicks and holes or, something that's out of the ordinary that they wouldn't be able to see by those wonderful listing photos, I point it out. And I try to always walk, do the tour in the way that the house flows. So if you're walking through the front door and you've got a wall on the left and you've got the living room that goes around to the kitchen or whatever on that side, I will do one side first and then do a complete circle, then go outside and do the backyard. Actually, I start with the front of the house. I start at the end of the driveway and give them the street view, the front of the house, the sides of the house, and then walk to the front door so they can experience that as if they were there. That's the most important thing. And I get a lot of great comments on mine, and they appreciate the honesty.
Oh, I know you do. You're an expert at that. And it's kind of interesting too, for those of you that have YouTube channels, and I didn't invent this, somebody taught it to me, but we did a video walkthrough for somebody, and it turned out it wasn't the right one for them. But we changed the headline in YouTube to, here's what $398 will get you in St. Petersburg, Florida. And it's getting tons of views. And now, of course, follow your rules in your area. Here in this area, you have to have the permission of the broker that has the listing to do something like that. But we've never had anybody ever say no. Everybody who has a listing wants as much exposure as possible. And it's a good way to develop some relationships with other brokers in your area, because we all do need to know each other and be friends and cooperate with each other. It makes life so much easier when we do that. I suspect everybody who's taken the time to come on here today and try to learn something, that you're all really great agents, because it seems like the top producers are always the one I see in classes, and all the ones that are down there complaining about the business, they never show up.
So Steve wrote about that, if the buyer's unable to attend the home inspection, he sends them a video of the inspector giving a recap of his or her findings. But we do the exact same thing.
Yes.
Exact same thing. When they're going over their sheet, the inspector, and like the summary of what's going on, we do the exact same thing. on there. Well, actually, I do it even if they're there. I do the video because then they can go back and look at it. Because,
Mhm.
you know, once they get that 100-page inspection report and then like the executive summary, a lot of it could be overwhelming.
Yeah,
And
freak them out.
yeah, so I love doing the videos, even if they're present, and just videotaping the inspector as to the list of things that, you know, potentially that come up. And it just makes such a difference. They go back and look at the videos and they're like, oh my God, the video was so wonderful as compared to that big inspection report I got.
Yeah, I mean I call it the freak out report.
Yeah,
And you're right, because hearing the inspector say it, because they're calm about it, like,
right,
yeah, the water heater's starting to get a little old. You might need to replace it in a year or two.
right,
You know, when you hear it said like that, it's just, oh, okay, well, water heater's getting old, big deal.
right. They may, especially our inspectors, they don't like raise their voices or say, oh my God, you know, this is wrong, or the roof needs replaced right this minute. You know, they're not
Yes.
they really stay in their lane with stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have a good inspector that knows how to explain the stuff without freaking people out and keeps their opinions to themselves, that is somebody who's a good partner for you. Now, I want to tell you, Jeff just posted a link in the chat to one of his videos that he does. So I'd encourage you to copy that link and take a look at it after we're finished talking. And
then someone, we don't know the name.
somebody with the same name as me.
They said also a great video to do with a next mortgage lender. So we haven't seen that. We might want to see that too, but
Yeah, I might want to see that.
yeah.
Yeah, because the more ideas.
Well,
you
the
can get
real
with that,
Chuck Vosburgh, please stand up. Yes.
I can prove that it's
crazy.
me. You can vouch for me.
I'll vouch for you. It's crazy.
All right. So wow, this
Wendy. Okay. Thanks, Wendy.
oh, it's Wendy Anderson. Wendy,
All
great.
right.
So yeah, make sure you get that. And wow, this hour's gone by so quick. I know, Jeff, I want you to wrap it up and again tell everybody about what you offer and where you offer it and how to get hold of you. And also, if it's okay with you all, I'm going to share your email addresses with Jeff, not so he can spam you, but he'll let you know about upcoming masterminds because he does this once a month. We always get a lot out of it, and I highly recommend it. And believe it or not, Jeff is not paying me.
Thank you. I know that is very true. I
Oh.
appreciate it. You know,
Thank you,
guys
Jeff.
are amazing team. And it's just so awesome to have such a good, you know, very good mixture of good rapport, good business sense, and really great customer service. Cause that's really what it really comes down to, you know? So, yeah, I do the monthly masterminds every first Wednesday of the month. I have most of your emails now. So I can just send you invites, things that are like, down payment assistance. I think that's one we did last month. To one of them was like increasing your buyer's capacity, you know, purchasing power in this market. How are we doing? Rates are almost at 8. I mean, if you're having a 680 or a 660 FICO, your rate is probably at 8% right now. You know, it's a tough market right now, and buyers are really feeling it. And on the flip side, sellers are really feeling it. So the monthly mastermind is for all of us to kind of get together, learn something, and then also just talk about stuff. Because I think, you know, right now it's kind of chaotic, you know, with the NAR settlement, with the DOJ getting involved, higher interest rates, higher home prices, cats and dogs living together, you know, mass hysteria to frame up Ghostbusters. But I really, if you guys have any questions too on how I operate, because I do a ton, everything I do is video. So you'll see, if you guys want examples too, I do offer videos. My initial analysis, when I do it for clients, they go out to the client, but then they also go out to the agent, because I really feel that when I'm showing the client options and what we can do in this market, it has to go out to the agent as well, because we all have to be on the same page. You know, they're always, if we're always on the same page, there's no miscommunication and there's no like, well, dividedness in some type of, or, you know, some type of secular communication or hiding something. So I try to keep the agents involved in every step of the way. and really, really keep the transaction as smooth as possible. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming out today. And I really thank you, Chuck and Pat, for handling this. It meant a lot.
Yeah, Chuck and Pat, thank you so much for hosting. Like, I know I just got here. I'm Jeff's wife. I'm loan officer assistant, but I'm also like a physical therapist. So I just try to like, do both at the same time. Like being here, I actually like to collaborate with Jeff when it comes to ideas. So just getting to know all your thoughts and ideas in this market in regards to North settlement will be also great because we're biggest proponent of like educating clients, and the biggest thing is for all of us to collaborate and run down scenarios so that we can navigate the market together, the changing market. It's nice to meet everyone.
Very good. Thank you so much for coming. Did you put your name and email in the chat? Because we are recording this today, and I can send you a link to the replay.
Yep, I did. Yep.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
It's nice meeting you guys.
Yes.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming today. It was a pleasure seeing some old friends and meeting some new ones. And I'm Chuck, and this is Pat. We're your friends in Florida. And call us anytime if you need some help, or if you want to brainstorm or anything like that. We're big believers in cooperating with other agents. So
We're always here for you guys.
yeah, ask us anything.
Yep.
We'll tell you whatever you want to know.
And me too. If you guys have any questions and you're out of state, I can always give you the idea. It translates from state to state. And just to show you how I'm doing it and tackling in Florida, but to kind of give you ideas and maybe tackling in your market too.
That's right.
Just get that one right there. Okay. Screenshot.
All right, guys, take care.
All right. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.